Call regular city council meeting Monday, October 29 to order. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Alderman Putoff.
Here.
Ferrari. Here. Waldorf. Here. Lukosius. Here. Radke. Sapienza. Here. Payton. Here. Ballard. Here. Mayor Hall.
All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, do we have a public comment card fill out? Ms. Eister? We'll hold it to 3 minutes, please.
Two agenda items. The first one being the purchase or replacement of the tasers. And I'm just asking for clarification with regard to that as to how many tasers that's going to cover and why this is being paid out of city money when the last tasers that were purchased 5 years ago were paid for by the out of the drug fund that Chief Burnaby controls. So I didn't know if there was an explanation as to why the money's now being paid.
Those will be covered under the committee once we get to it.
Okay. And then also with regard to the price, because it appears that now the contract's $37,230, and when they were purchased 5 years ago, it was about $25,000. So I didn't know if that was just an increase with inflation, or if there's a reason why it's approximately $12,000 more than when they were purchased the last time. Second agenda item is the settlement with Rodney Perez. It says execution of a settlement agreement. I'm just wondering if there's actually an agreement that's going to be signed, or if that's some agreement in the future, or if it's actually a written document that's prepared already. Because the last time the council met and Mayor Harrell was asked about, at a closed session, about the settlement, he said there's no settlement, there's no agreement. However, the next morning in federal court, the docket reflected that there had been a settlement according to counsel for the city of Peru. So I didn't know if that was something that needed to be clarified as to why Mayor Harrell would say there's no settlement, and then the next morning the court docket reflect that. Also with regard to that settlement, if the council is going to disclose the amount of the settlement and how that's to be paid, if it's going to be paid through through the insurance carrier or through the city itself.
That'll all be clarified when we action that item.
Thank you.
Okay, was there any other cards filled out for?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, we have a presentation, fiscal year 18 audit presentation.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to take a few moments to summarize the audit highlights from Mack & Associates presentation at our finance meeting on October 10th. Since everybody wasn't able to be at the finance meeting, I thought it'd be a good idea to go over some of those points here today. So, one of the more comprehensive ways to evaluate a city's financial standing is looking at its net position. Net position is subtracting all the existing and future liabilities from the community's assets. Assets include the valuation of infrastructure, investments, and other cash balances. The city's fiscal year 2018 net position increased $6,375,000 to $82,600,000. Over $4.5 million of that increase was due to the investments the city made into its infrastructure. Some of those projects that we completed during the year were sewer separation, the annual sewer separation project, the general fund street program, the redevelopment of Plank Road, implemented the first phasing of utility smart metering, and also the splash pad. Total government type revenues increased 6.33%, while expenditures increased 2.23%. The purchase of electricity was the city's largest expenditure at $17.5 million. The city also continued to pay down its debt balances and made principal payments of over $2.5 million, which reduces the remaining balance by over 14%. The police and fire pensions realized a total increase of $1.15 million in assets, and overall the city received a clean audit opinion without any audit findings. Take a moment to answer any questions if the council had any.
I think, again, some important points to note is the city has also increased its reserve fund, which is important for a balance sheet for any city. There's been $2.5 million in debt payments without any additional debt. You've mentioned a little bit about how much money has been placed in infrastructure, where you see the majority of the city revenues are placed in infrastructure, which I think the residents of the community are very happy to see. And another important issue is the pension liabilities have gone down quite considerably in the last year.
Yeah, just to clarify too, on the reserve, we've increased reserves in both the utility fund and general fund, and total reserves are just, invested reserves are just under 14 million, plus there's some operational cash reserves that we have on hand, so very strong there. One last point I'd like to make is the audit will be available online on the website tomorrow, and anybody who would like to see a hard copy, they are available at City Hall.
And when asking Mack and Associates a little bit about comparisons with the city, naturally they didn't go to extremes, but they said that the city is definitely has one of the top financial statements that they've seen, and they audit over 100 different cities.
Yeah, I think earlier in the year that was reflected as well with our credit upgrade rating from Moody's Investors. We're one of the only communities, one of the few communities, I guess I should say, in the state that received an upgrade this year. So that was a great accomplishment. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion to receive the presentation? I know this really isn't necessary, but we might as well do this.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Do we have a motion to receive regular meeting minutes of October 15, 2018 and place on file?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Do we have a motion to receive the financial reports and place on file?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor.
Have a motion and a second. Receive the financial reports, place on file. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor, I just want to point out two very important reports in tonight's agenda. First is the Peru City Annual Statement, and this is really a Bible or a resource for every revenue and every expense within the city. It is a tool that has complete transparency with it, and it talks about every item from every vendor in the city of Peru. The second item I wanted to highlight is the city of Peru sales tax, which for the month of July reported an $89,958 increase from last July, which is quite significant. And year to date, the city is up $430,659 in year to date. So that's a very positive trend for the city.
Yeah, I just had one thing to add. As far as the annual statement goes, it's a great report, but it's also on a cash basis. So if you're trying to reconcile it to the audit, it's not going to be the same type of report. They're on two different standards of accounting, so they're not going to tie out directly.
Okay, is there any further discussion on receiving the financial reports and place on file? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Do we have a motion to receive the activity reports and place on file?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor.
Have a motion, a second, to receive activity reports, place on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. We'll move on to committee reports. Finance, Safety Services, Chairman Putoff.
Alderman Radke will handle disbursements tonight, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Total disbursements to be paid October 31st, 2018 are $2,826,243.83. I move this report be received, placed on file, and bills paid in the usual manner.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari. Aye. Waldorf. Aye. Prokosius. Radke. Sapienza. Payton. Ballard.
Motion approved.
Your Honor, I also wanted to note that the city has been doing preliminary work for the tax levy for this upcoming year, and it looks like the city tax levy will be down approximately about 2%, Justin?
Yeah, the rate will drop 2.7%.
2.7%. And remember, all that's levied will go into both the police pension fund and the fireman's pension fund, and that is over $670,000 into police, $75,000 in the fireman's pension plan. We have an additional $750,000 budgeted for the pension plan for police and another $130,000 for the fireman's pension fund. Okay?
Should be noted that when we levy funds for the pensions, we don't receive that money. We directly pass that money to the pension fund that's managed by the pension board. So really for the city's operations, we don't collect any sales tax or any property tax.
Alderman Ferrari will handle the replacement of the tasers.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve a 5-year agreement with Axon Enterprises Incorporated for replacement of tasers. First year is $6,086. Years 2 through 5 would be $7,786 per year.
Second.
Chief Burnaby, could you fill us in on this, please?
I'd be happy to, and then I think I wrote down the questions. I'll try and address all of those if I can. What I'm requesting tonight is authorization from the city to purchase what would be a total of 18 replacement tasers. 17 would go into the members of the police department that have elected to carry tasers, and then one is a spare that we have to have essentially in the event we deploy a taser. For liability reasons, we would secure that, place that in evidence, or if we had a failure. So it's 17 that go right into use, and 18th that is used as a spare. We did purchase the original set of tasers for the officers requesting to carry them a little over 5 years ago. I don't know the exact price, but I believe that what Julie had reported is probably accurate. I don't know off the top of my head. But it's very close, if not right on. It's simply that there's a new model. We are going to the X2 taser. The X26 is no longer manufactured, and there's just been a price increase, and there probably will be continuing price increases. We're locked in for 5 years. As I tried to mention at the Finance Committee, but I wanted to be clear, and the city clerk has this, the only way to purchase a taser is from Axon, which is the company that owns Taser. It's what they call a sole source. You cannot bid tasers. There's nowhere in the state of Illinois that any law enforcement agency, I think there's 36 states in the country, that do not have a vendor and must go directly to Axon for the purchase. We 5 years ago were able to buy it, or a little over 5 years ago, from a company called Ray O'Heron on behalf of Taser Company, but they no longer are a vendor. So what we have to go with the documents tonight, and the clerk has this, is a sole source letter that goes out to every police agency in the United States on the state, local, and municipal level, explaining a sole source justification exists because the following goods and services are required to satisfy the agency's need are only manufactured and available for purchase from Axon Enterprise. Axon is the sole distributor of all Taser brand products in the following states. And like I said, it lists 36 of them, I think, and Illinois is one of them. So we are proposing to purchase 17. There are a few of the supervisors that do not elect to carry them, but they know that any time that if they do want to carry them, that I would authorize that purchase and we would provide that. We talked a little bit about the success of the Taser program. Just having them has certainly reduced resisting arrest type situations all across the country, and including us. There's a significant reduction in workers' compensation claims and injuries to officers and injury to the suspects that end up going to the hospital sometimes when you go in hands-on. So every police department across the country, I think, has had the same success with them in reducing workman's comp and that sort of thing. So we are at the mercy of the only manufacturer in the country that makes this device, and if we want it, that is the current price. The reason it is a little bit up, the price is actually $40,162, but they're discounting $29.32 because we will return for parts the current inventory of tasers that we have. I think we bought 17 or 18 5 years ago. After 5 years, the tasers are no longer warranted by Taser. They will no longer defend us in part of any civil litigation, testify on our behalf. And believe it or not, the Axon company has said after 5 years and when the warranty failures, there's a 2-time statistical chance that the Taser will fail when it's going to be deployed. So that's why there's only a 5-year warranty. The numbers significantly go up on failure. We've had 2 fail in the last month, which brought us to this because of the 2 failures. We sent them in. We knew they were not under warranty. They were not repairable. In the meantime, we had 2 additional tasers fail in the testing phase. We haven't had to use them, and they failed. So the people that are assigned typically to the desk, the detectives and that sort of thing, we've put those out on patrol pending receiving these additional new ones. Part of the price increase also is that the 2 patrolmen that are our TASER certified instructors have asked us to buy this plan that gives us unlimited training cartridges. So we're getting more bang for our buck, so to speak, because we're going to have unlimited training cartridges that can be very expensive, and it has limited, I think, the training officers willing to constantly come in and want to, hey, we need to order more for training. Now they have unlimited and they can train with these things as much as they want. And then the last thing that was questioned about the drug fund, probably, Justin, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, Justin and I talked. Historically, the drug fund, which is audited every year by the city auditors and has been audited every year, the checks would come directly out. For example, we recently purchased a police car, and that was paid for out of the city general fund, and then I and the co-signer wrote a check to the city of Peru out of the drug fund. So the drug fund, I don't like writing checks directly to a vendor and that sort of thing. Frankly, it's not quite as transparent. People just can't come into the police department and go through it, and the drug account is not on the monthly disbursement. So now when we spend something and we're going to reimburse the city out of our drug funds, it'll go through the general fund and it'll appear as a regular expenditure. So we just did that recently with the purchase of a squad car. The city wrote the check, but then I wrote the check out of the drug account to the payable to the city. So it showed a purchase, but it also showed a revenue stream. And we're going to continue to do that, whether we buy a camera out of the DUI enforcement fund, rather than just writing that check and nobody knows about it until the auditors come in. It'll go through as any other purchase through the police department, and then we'll write the check. It's just a cleaner, better, healthier way to do it.
And I also wanted to say, since Chief Burnaby arrived, he has insisted on a complete audit by our auditors as far as where every dollar is going for the drug fund.
Correct.
And certainly the city is happy to oblige with that.
So on behalf of the 17 police officers that carry these that are requesting you approve this, I would ask that the council vote to support the police department in this purchase.
I think $6,000 or $7,000 a year to supply our police department with tasers. Tasers is a no-brainer. It's actually it's less than a no-brainer.
Yeah, and we certainly don't want to leave the city at a liability or a potential liability by using old lasers.
Let alone have some officer that wants to use his taser and it doesn't work. That would be tragic. So.
Thank you, Chief.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll have a roll call, quick call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari. Aye. Waldorf. Prokosius. Radke. Sapienza. Payton. Ballard.
Motion approved. Anything else from finance?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll move on to public services. Chairman Waldorf.
Thank you, Your Honor. Alderman Ballard?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the city engineer, Eric Carls, to seek bids to demolish the 1902 4th Street.
I will second that motion.
Have a motion and a second to authorize City Engineer Eric Carls to demolish 1902 4th Street. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote, quick call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari. Aye. Waldorf. Prokosius. Radke. Sapienza. Payton. Ballard.
Motion approved. So while we're on the subject, we also purchased the building at 1830. And I would suggest anybody who wants to take a look at it, anybody in the audience, anybody in the public, if you put it in the paper tomorrow, call in here and we'll take anybody through it. I will suggest if you do go through it, to wear your old clothes, because it's pretty nasty in there. So you're going to want to wear your old clothes, shoes that you don't want to soil, things like that. But we'll go through it, and our plans are to clean it out, which anybody that goes through it, you'll see that there is a large volume of garbage in that facility. So our plans are to clean it out with our city workers, and then put out for RFPs to see what anybody would want to do with it at this time. And then if we don't have something that suits us, or if nobody puts one in, then we may go a little further and do some more work to the building and then put out for RFPs again. it'll be a work in motion. It'll take a while. Once again, if anybody's interested in going through the building, please call in here to the clerk's office or the building zoning office and let us know, and we'll put some times together when you can go through it. But I'll say it again, wear old clothes, old shoes, and don't plan on wearing the shoes back in your house after you walk through the building over there with those shoes on. It's dirty, it's filthy.
I walked through it Saturday, there's still a couple tenants living there, some smaller ones. They kind of run across the floor.
This is correct.
If you walk through there, you might run into some of those, so.
This is true. It's the conditions in that place, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I would just say that, having been through there, as the mayor said, anybody's welcome. I wouldn't recommend it.
So, you needed to do something. You needed to take charge of that piece of property, because where was it gonna go? Once you walk through it, you'll see what we're talking about. There's no place for it to go up unless we take it and take charge of it. So we purchased it, and you have plans for it, but we'll see how the plans work out. And it's not gonna happen overnight. It'll be a project in motion. And the first one is to please come through and take a look at it. And then after you do that, we'll put out for RFPs. Actually, I had a call today, and I have a person that wants to go through tomorrow at tomorrow's Tuesday, Wednesday at 10 a.m., take a walk through, because they have interest in it. So we'll see. We haven't put out for any proposals yet, so I'm not jumping the gun. It's just if somebody called in and says, sure, you can walk through, just like I'm saying here tonight. Anybody who wants to go through it, please do. And if you have any ideas, they'll either solidify your ideas or change your ideas once you walk through the place. It's not what you want in your city. So, anyway, we have a motion, which we've already voted on that motion, to approve Eric Carl's to demolish the 1902, which is going to be a parking lot, because everybody's also aware that with the new restaurant on 4th Street, across the street, and a couple doors down to the west from this building, is creating quite a bit of trade. And there's many cars parking in the residential areas, and we hear from the residents about the cars parking in their area, so we need parking. And that's a perfect building for parking. You have the beautiful brownstone building across the street that the CPA is currently in, and then the beautiful brownstone building restaurant one more down, and this building just doesn't fit. And the best thing for it, and I haven't even been through that. Has anybody in here been through that one? I know Chief King has been.
Through the windows, and to be honest, it doesn't look much better than the building that I walked through, so It is not. I've been through it. We've done a full environmental assessment on it as well, and the best thing to do is for us to raise that building.
So, okay, that's been approved 8-0. Is there anything further from Public Services?
No, sir.
Okay, report to City Attorney, ordinances, resolutions.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to defer to Clerk Bartley for the reading of tonight's ordinances and resolutions.
Okay, the first ordinance is an ordinance levying taxes for the corporate purposes of the City of Peru, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning on May 1st, 2018, ending on April 30th of 2019. And those are receipt dates of the taxes that we levy. And as Alderman Putoff noted earlier, the exhibit levies $670,845 for the police pension fund and $75,711 to the fireman's pension fund, for a total of $746,556. Is there a motion to approve that ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Alderman Ferrari. Alderman Radke. Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Have a roll call. Clerk call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Prokosius.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Sapienza. Payton.
Aye.
Ballard.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Next on the agenda, we have a resolution to authorize execution of a settlement agreement on behalf of the city in the case of Rodney Perez versus the City of Peru, under which the city's insurance carrier shall pay Perez $97,500, that all claims are dismissed. The parties are subject to confidentiality and non-disparagement provisions, and that Perez relinquishes his right to future employment with the City of Peru. The title of the ordinance is an ordinance authorizing the execution of a settlement agreement for the lawsuit filed by Rodney Perez against the City of Peru, Mayor Scott Harrell, and Fire Chief Jeff King. Whereas Rodney Perez filed a lawsuit against the city, Mayor Harrell, Fire Chief Jeff King, that is currently pending in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, Eastern Division, as case number 18CV0685 lawsuit. And whereas the city has liability insurance coverage that protects taxpayer funds from the risks inherent in providing public safety service to its residents, and whereas the city's defense of the lawsuit is covered by the city's liability insurance carrier, and the payment of court costs, attorney fees, and any amount to be paid to settle the lawsuit is the responsibility of the insurance carrier, and whereas the city's insurance carrier is responsible for the costs associated with the lawsuit. The insurance carrier has the authority to decide whether to pay any money to settle the lawsuit, not the city council, and whereas the city's insurance carrier has decided to settle the lawsuit. And whereas the lawsuit was voluntarily dismissed against Mayor Harrell, and the insurance carrier is not paying any money to settle any claims against Mayor Harrell because said claims have been dismissed, and whereas despite the fact that the City Council plays no role in deciding whether to pay money to settle this matter, it is contractually obligated to cooperate with the insurance carrier by agreeing to standard non-monetary settlement provisions necessary for the lawsuit to be resolved, and whereas the resolution of the lawsuit shall not constitute, be construed as, or be deemed to be an admission of fault, liability, or wrongdoing whatsoever on the part of the city, Mayor Harrell, or Jeff King. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Peru as follows. Section 1, the above recitals are incorporated herein as material terms and conditions of this resolution. Section 2, pursuant to the city's obligation to cooperate with the insurance carrier in resolving this matter, the City Council hereby authorizes Special Labor Counsel Jason Geisinger of Klein, Thorpe, and Jenkins Limited to execute the agreement attached hereto as Exhibit A on behalf of the city. Section 3, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption and approval as required by law on this day pursuant to the roll call. Council, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion that the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Have a motion to adopt the resolution as written and read. Is there any discussion? Now, keep in mind to the people in the press that we have a confidentiality provision of this settlement agreement that only allows me to confirm that this case has been settled. That's all I can say. That's all Jeff King can say from now into eternity. So, if you ask any question, that's all I have, and that's all Jeff King has by court order.
There are copies of the resolution available. We have the Freedom of Information officer in the back row, and she can handle any additional requests that you may have.
Anybody else? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on it. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari. Aye. Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius. Radke. Sapienza. Payton. Ballard.
Okay, motion passed. Now, at this time, Administrative Assistant Stephanie Peach is going to fulfill anybody's FOIA request right here and now, tonight. So what I would ask is, Ms. Pisha, could you grab a legal pad and we can pass it around the room? And keep in mind, everybody, if you need to fill out the actual FOIA request, and you need to be specific on what you want. Do you want the resolution and the agreement? Do you want the resolution, or do you want the agreement? So do you want the resolution and agreement? You need to write it down so that it's full. Okay, is there a tablet being passed around yet?
Stephanie's gonna hand out the, FOIA sheets.
Oh, you have the FOIA sheets? Okay. Okay. Does everybody understand what I just said? You know, the FOIA sheets will be coming around. Be specific on what you're asking for, and we'll provide you with what you're asking for, and we'll move on from there. So, do we have a motion for me to read this proclamation and declare November 12th through 18th, 2018 as National Apprentice Week? This was put out by the United States Department of Labor, and I told them I would put it on the floor. So, do we have a motion to...
So moved, Your Honor.
That was Alderman Payton?
Second.
Alderman Sapienza. Okay, proclamation National Apprenticeship Week. Whereas registered apprentices are vital components of talent and development in many high-demand and high-growth sectors and are recognized as critical post-secondary education training ground for future employment. Whereas the United States has pledged major resources to support apprenticeship in an effort to boost vocational education, workforce training, and job creation. Whereas the City of Peru recognizes the strength and leadership displayed by apprentices. And whereas on November 12th through 18th, 2018, we will observe as National Apprentice Week. So now therefore be it resolved that I, Scott Harrell, Mayor of the City of Peru, proclaim November 12th through 18th, 2018 as National Apprentice Week. So we'll have a roll call vote. Clerk call roll, please.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Sapienza. Payton.
Aye.
Ballard.
Motion approved. Okay, the unfinished business. Do we have bids?
Your Honor, we had the surplus vehicles and equipment, which included two 2001 Dodge pickups, 2004 bucket truck from the electric department, a ditch mower, a saw, cement saw, some netting, and the old ice skating rink. And we received bids for all of the items with the exception of the electric department bucket truck, which had a minimum bid requirement from two separate bidders, and we're just looking for a motion so that we can finalize those transactions.
I will make that motion.
I will second it. Do we have the information there, or what the bids are? That's fine.
Yeah, we have a bid tabulation sheet that's available on that of who the bidders were and what the amounts were. That's available at the city clerk's office.
Okay. Lukosius, Alderman Waldorf and Alderman Lukosius. So there was no bid on the bucket truck?
Correct, Your Honor.
I had a question asked to me, what would we accept, you know, now that it's over? I don't think our electric department wants it back, so I didn't commit to anything. I was going to ask Kaidama, I wanted to throw it by the council tonight. 75? No, 7,500. That's the vehicle. It's been trouble the whole time the city's owned it. It's what we call the bad engine vehicle. We've spent a great deal of money keeping it on the road. So we don't need it. I was going to reconfirm that with Kai tomorrow. You know, we don't need it, and what his thoughts are on what it's worth, and you can make a decision.
I would say just talk to Kai and go ahead.
Okay, so think about it. I'll talk to Kai and then make sure everybody knows what kind of number.
Yeah, I would recommend rebidding it.
We would need to rebid that. If we want to remove the reserve on it, then we would just need to rebid it. Correct.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. Might as well move it.
Okay.
The bidding on the other items, just for reference, one of the trucks went for, I missed one vehicle. There was an old dump truck that was on there. So the dump truck was sold for $1,001. One of the 2001 pickup trucks went for $350. One went for $100. The excess netting sold for $1, which that ultimately was cheaper than throwing it away, better than throwing it away. The saw cutter went for $200. Yes.
Ice skating rink.
The ice skating rink went for $250. And the ditch mower, I think, went for $150. So they're very low dollar amounts. This is some old surplus stuff. I think one of the trucks runs and one of them doesn't, which may reflect which one went for $350 and one went for $100. Again, we have the bid tabs available if anybody wants to see those.
Have a motion second. Is there no further discussion? We'll have a roll call. Clerk call the roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari. Aye. Waldorf. Lukosius. Radke. Sapienza. Payton. Ballard.
Motion approved. Anything further unfinished? New business. Any new business? Anybody? Petitions, communications?
Yes, Your Honor, I have a couple. The first one is from the Better Fishing Association requesting permission to hold the annual Kids Fishing Expo at Baker Lake Saturday, April 11th, and set up on May 11th, and set up on Friday, May the 10th, 2019, and we've done this every year with the Better Fishing Association.
Have a motion to receive communication, place on file, and grant permission, providing there's no conflict on that date.
I'll make that a motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
We have a communication from Robert Angelini requesting variances for property located 2601 2nd Street.
Have a motion to receive the communication, place on file, and turn it over to planning and zoning for their review.
Second, Your Honor.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What are they asking for?
I do not know.
He wants to lay some gravel to park a old motorhome. The second one's next door. They're not related?
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Next, there's a communication from Ronald Yankee requesting variances for property located 2605 2nd Street.
So those houses are adjacent, right?
Is related?
I don't know.
They're not related to my knowledge, and I'm not positive what the second one is. I haven't
Yeah,
reviewed
I'll make a motion to put it,
I thought that was a vacant lot. There was a house that was raised in that area. Like I said, I'm not 100% positive. I haven't reviewed that.
it's a semi-vacant lot.
Okay.
It's amazing. Yeah, I know that we had some correspondence out to him over the course of the last about 30 to 60 days. I can't say for certain that they've all been resolved.
I'll just be a little leery, granting another variance, having another pot of solar, if all those other properties on the state.
Well, I think let it go to planning.
It's gotta go to planning and zoning first.
See what the recommendation is.
Okay, so we have a recommendation. I don't have a motion.
We have a motion from Alderman Putoff.
I'll second it.
Okay, now we have a motion and a second, and we'll receive, place on file, and turn it over to planning and zoning for their review and recommendation. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Any other petitions, communications?
That's all, Your Honor.
Public comment. Any public comment? Anybody? Does everybody have their FOIA sheets filled out that wish to fill one out? No public comment?
I'll collect those up and provide the copies after the meeting.
Okay, well, no public comment? Any public comment? Okay, closed session. I don't know that we have one. Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Who would that come from? Meeting adjourned.